Everyone likes to feel smart, but there's a difference between being smart, being wise, and being clever. Today I wanted to look at one of the most clever guys to ever grace all of fiction, Light Yagami. And I wanted to talk about where being clever gets you. I think everyone probably wants to be smarter or wants to look at themselves as smart. And this goes for everyone. Us with 80 IQs to those that probably have 160 IQs. It feels good to be smart. One person that was really smart, Light Yagami. So smart in fact that there are people debating if Batman could beat him. And Batman, as we all know, is the greatest detective. I don't know about you guys, but Death Note was one of the first animes I had ever seen. Only thing beating it out was, of course, Dragon Ball, because Dragon Ball is super cool and it was on Nicktoons. Dragon Ball Z aside, Death Note was my first anime. And of course, with it being my first anime, I was enthralled. Let's take a deeper look into Death Note and of course, Light Yagami, probably the cleverest guy to ever exist. If you don't know the general plot, or it's been a while, I'll give you a little rundown, but basically, Light has gotten the Death Note, which means he can control if certain people die. All he has to do, know their name, know their face, and write down how they die, and they die. This power, of course, does not go to his head, and he uses it super wisely and well. Just kidding. He gets super arrogant, thinks that he's the new god of the world, and tries to take it over and shape it in his vision. The reason why this happens, of course, human arrogance. We see it everywhere. Someone gets famous, all of a sudden they think they can get away with anything. There's also a phenomenon that goes on that I learned through speedrunning through this YouTube channel, whose name I forgot, but I'll credit them right here, where most cheaters are people that are actually really competent in the games that they're playing. They just feel like, hey, I put so much time being good, I should get this little quick hack. And I think with Light Yagami, that exists as well, because he is a super genius. A super genius that was just given absolute power over people's lives. And you know what they say, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So unfortunately for him, being a smart person and getting the Death Note combined into a crazy god complex that you would probably never find again. As a first-time viewer of the show, I wasn't really looking into the themes or what it was trying to say. But looking back, you can kind of see how the story is saying that the Death Note clearly corrupted Light. First of all, he starts as a pretty normal character and then goes absolutely crazy as the story goes on, although that happens rather quickly. But the author does something really unique, and he highlights how the Death Note corrupted Light. At a certain point in the show, for Light to prove his innocence, he wipes his mind of ever having the Death Note. And we get to see a Light uncorrupted by this crazy power of being able to kill anybody that he wanted to. And he actually became a goody two-shoes absolute dork. And what I like about this is we get to see Light be a good person, a smart person, the super genius that he was, but not someone so arrogant that they believe that they're the god of a new world, or be a total narcissist. I think this is where we get to see how being smart might not be the advantage that we think it is. There are tons of characters that are nowhere near as smart as Light, but just get to keep their respect throughout the show. If you look at Light, with the power of the Death Note and his genius intellect, they combine to make an arrogant, cocky, terrible person.
Also, if you just look at his lifestyle, he loses his family, cannot connect with anyone, and is super isolated. This ties back to my Berserk video, which you should totally watch, talking about Griffith. Bro gets everything he could ever want, but you kind of lose your family. What is life without other people? Especially for Light Yagami, like, all he has is Ryuk, bro. I mean, yeah, Misa's all over him, but he can't love something back. What is the point? Anyway, peace out.
So if you really think you're smart, be responsible and don't go full narcissist mode, alright? Keep it in the back of your head like, hey bro, I should be a good person still, even though I'm super smart and cool. Luckily, I don't have to worry about that. Thank you. Anyway, the reason why I titled this video, Where Being Clever Gets You, is because we get to see Light, someone that schemes and contrives his way out of the mud over and over again, and basically to being on top of the world. He gets to play God for years during the show, but where does it get him? In the exact same spot that it got everyone else. And again, I think that this is really good writing. First time watching the show, I didn't really think too deeply about it, and I was just kind of like, the ending's whatever. But if you think back to it from this perspective, Light's scheming eventually catches up with him. He ends up running with no dignity just to get written in Ryuk's death note. Just like how he wrote so many people's names in his death note. And then if you compare Light's death to L's death, they die in the exact same way, being written in a death note, but one gets to keep their honor, and the other goes out screaming into the night on a little staircase because his schemes fell apart. Now I will admit, it is really cool to see Light win over and over and keep getting out of these situations, and he does get to be on top for quite a bit of the story, but you have to realize that scheming and being clever and trying to outwit people doesn't get you anywhere above them in the end. If anything, but you end up in a much worse place than if you would have just stayed humble, kind, and caring. It's kind of ironic that I brought up watching Dragon Ball as another anime that I started off watching, because both of these stories kind of highlight arrogance. If you watch Dragon Ball, it's like everyone's weakness. It's like Gohan gets powered up, oh bro is arrogant and dropped the ball. Vegeta, every single arc, that's his issue. Golden Frieza. Arrogance always is playing a role in that show, but in a much darker way. I think it is Light's biggest flaw, and it's so clear to me now watching over it that, like, yes, he's scheming and it's so fun to watch him get out of these situations, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really get him anywhere. He doesn't get to be a god, he gets to play God, and he ends up just where all of his victims ended up.
This reminds me of something I learned in one of my classes recently. And if you couldn't tell by the aesthetic of my room, I'm in a dorm at university right now. But you know that because you've seen all my videos, right? But anyway, I'm in a class, and what we learned is sometimes the best way to use power is sparingly, and almost to not use your power that was bestowed upon you. Now, this is a management class, but I think it applies to the Death Note or any facet in life. If you're given power over someone or over something, the best solutions probably come from trying to solve it without reaching up and using that power directly. And if you just always default back on your power, you're going to be one annoying manager, you're going to be one jerk of a parent, and you're going to be one crazy god of a new world that's probably going to die alone on a staircase.
I heard once that a wise man knows that he is a fool, and I really enjoy that saying, because every time in my life so far that I've encountered where I thought I knew best, or I thought I finally understood how things work, it turns out that I don't know nothing. You know, clearly Light Yagami was a much smarter man than me, but at the end of the day, he ended up dying miserable and alone. And that's where being clever gets you, at least in the sense of where you try to outwit, outmaneuver, and start treating people like objects. I don't know about you guys, but I would rather be stupid, honest, and kind than clever and alone. Check out some of my other awesome videos. Have a great day. I did not know it did that. I record these on this random app on my Mac, and it does some bonkers ass shit. If I give a thumbs up, hell yeah. Isn't that weird? Like, bro, I'm just trying to record a video about some anime stuff.